Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's video is going to be the Cozy Autumn book tag. My dog has decided apparently to join us today for this tag. Welcome, Bruce. But I saw Monica over at Monica Kim doing this book tag and I really wanted to do it. I love fall, I love autumn. So when I saw this book tag that has to do with everything autumn, fall, aesthetic vibes sort of thing, I wanted to do it. So I will be leaving the prompts down below in case you wanted to do this tag as well. Let me know if you've already done this book tag or if you're planning on doing this book tag. I would love to watch your video because we cannot have too much fall vibes. It is the best sort of aesthetic, no matter your aesthetic. I love it all. I'm more of a spooky vibes, fall aesthetic person myself, but I also really enjoy like the pumpkin spice aesthetic as well. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the prompts. So the first prompt is, what book always reminds you of the fall or autumn? And for me, I do have two that come to mind very clearly whenever I hear this question. Both of these books have some of the best atmospheres that I've ever read, and both of them, at least to me, just really scream fall. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is Salem's Lot by Stephen King. This is a horror novel about a small town that becomes infested by vampires, and some of the residents of the town have to quickly figure out how to stop their town from being overrun by these blood-sucking creatures. Now, like a lot of books that have a really heavy atmosphere and have like really heavy aesthetics, this book does start off very slow, but I think one of the wonderful things about this book, and one of the reasons why it's also one of my favorite Stephen King books, is that the town of Salem's Lot is actually a character in and of itself, which is really cool. I haven't seen that done a lot, or really done successfully a lot. The town is very small, and it's a very small kind of like bubble sort of community, which reminded me a lot of the small town in which I grew up in. So I think that's part of the reason why this horror novel worked so well for me, is because I really could envision the town and kind of understood the dynamic of the town and how the town itself sort of gives off its own certain feel. In the beginning of this book, there is a whole long chapter that goes pretty much from sun up to sundown, describing the town, describing just going from different citizen to different citizen, talking about the things that they do on a daily basis. So if you're looking for an atmospheric horror book to pick up for fall, I think this really gives off small town in the fall sort of vibes. The second book is a dark fantasy, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a dark academia book with magical sort of paranormal elements to it, which is really cool. This one also is very atmospheric, and I would almost say that the character development and the atmosphere and the whole aesthetics and sort of stylization of this book definitely comes before plot. So if you're not a fan of that, you probably won't be a fan of this one. This does start very, very slowly. I just realized that this book takes place at Yale, so it's very similar geographic-wise to Salem's Lot. They're both on the East Coast there. But I really do think when I'm thinking about fall books, this dark academia book is pretty much second to none. I feel like just as a genre in whole, dark academia usually has really strong fall vibes or a fall aesthetic, just because of the nature of each school year normally starts end of August, September, going into October. But this one also has the added element of ghosts and supernatural paranormal happenings, which really heightens that sort of September, October spooky season feel. I read this actually in the winter last year and I really loved it, but I was thinking the whole time how much I wished that I could have read it in the fall, because while this doesn't totally take place solely in the fall, it does just give off a wonderful September, October vibe. The next prompt is, what is your favorite autumnal book cover? And for this one, I would say a ton of horror books honestly do this really well. I don't know if it's because in just a marketing sense, most people pick up horror in the autumn, or just because the darker autumnal colors just work really well with themes of horror books. Like you can see behind me, especially on the top shelf there's a lot of reds, a lot of oranges, a lot of blacks that I feel work really well. But my favorite autumnal book cover, which I will explain why I think it's autumnal, because it's really just one of my favorite book covers in general ever, and that is going to be My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Luckily, this is a book that is also great on the inside. I know a lot of times it can be so discouraging when books have absolutely wonderful covers and then the inside content doesn't really match the high expectations that you had on the book, but this is actually one of my favorite horror novels. As you can tell from the absolutely exquisite cover design, it It looks like an old VHS. It's got the VHS stickers down below. It has the Be Kind, Please Rewind sticker. It just looks like an absolutely perfect thing from the 80s. And not only is this novel aesthetically pleasing, but I think it's absolutely wonderful in terms of setting the tone for this book. What you see on the cover is exactly what you're getting out of this book. It is very 80s aesthetically themed. If you want 80s vibes, definitely pick up this book. I think it's a wonderful 80s nostalgia book that doesn't rely on 80s nostalgia to make it good. It just has a really good setting. It's very campy, like a lot of exorcism things, at least for me, tend to sort of be. But it's also really funny, really lighthearted, and it's also surprisingly really heartwarming and has a lot of themes of female friendship and best friendship and that sort of really wonderful high school relationships and friendships that you have at that time in your life. So I absolutely love this book. I think this is one of the best done covers ever, not only because it's absolutely beautiful. I would buy like this artwork and hang it up on my wall, but it just sets the scene and the tone of the book so incredibly much that when you pick it up, you really are getting what you think that you're getting when you look at this book cover. I highly recommend this book to everyone whenever I get the chance. It is about a young high schooler named Abby, and her best friend starts acting really different out of nowhere, and she has to try and figure out, is this just kind of normal teen angst and moving away and moving apart from your friends, or is this something deeper like an exorcism? So if John Hughes were to sit down and write a horror novel, this is exactly what it would be like. The next question is, what is your favorite autumnal drink to read with? And I don't really read and eat or drink. It's very nerve-wracking for me. I take very good care of my books. I have a lot of older books that I want to keep in good condition, so I don't really drink too much. It's mostly water, which is really boring. I mostly only drink water or energy drinks, which neither of those are very autumnal at all. However, one of my favorite autumnal drinks just in general is hot apple cider. It's just so good. It's unparalleled, and it's weird because I don't like apple juice and I'm not a big fan of cold apple cider, but when you warm it up, it's so cozy. I love it. So I'll have to say that for that question, even though I don't normally drink anything when I read. Question number 4, do you prefer to read late at night or early in the morning? And both. I'm going to be quite honest, like the middle of the day is when I'm least productive. I really enjoy waking up early and staying up late, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I would say like I'm most productive from like 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Doesn't work with society, but if I could choose, I would probably choose to sleep through the afternoon, not gonna lie. This is really going to call me out as an introvert, but there's just something so cool and just so wonderful about feeling like you're the only person on earth, and there's just something like not satisfying, but there's just something so peaceful about being awake before the rest of the world, even though you're not, like just the quiet before the sunrise. I've been trying recently not to drink as much caffeine or rely as heavily on caffeine as unfortunately I have been. So when I wake up in the morning, I've been trying to wake up earlier than I need to just to have time to set myself up before the day. I really enjoy reading before work. It makes me feel productive. It makes me feel like I have time for myself. However, one of my routines before I go to bed is also reading. So those are honestly the times that I get the most physical reading done, are those 2 times. I don't really get a lot of reading done in the middle of the day, and that's just because that's like when I'm working and like doing other things. So I might be doing audiobook reading, but physical reading, it's very nice during those 2 times. If I had to pick one though, I guess I'll probably pick at night. There's something that's so cozy about lighting a candle, putting my fairy lights on, putting some ambiance on, and just winding down from the day with a really good book. Prompt number 5 is Halloween is coming. What is your favorite spooky read? If you've been around on this channel for a little bit, I don't think this is gonna come as a surprise to you. But my favorite spooky read is also one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Stephen King's It. This is actually one of the books that I've reread the most, which is crazy if you think about how long it is. It's over 1,000 pages. There are definitely some flaws in it. It's not a perfect book, if you know what I'm talking about, but just, I love the book. I almost love the movies even more in a sense. I just think they're absolutely wonderful, both chapters 1 and chapters 2. The miniseries, I'm sorry, I think the new movies are better. I just think that the way friendship is explored and just that deep bond, again, kind of like what I talked about with my best friend's exorcism, there's something so magical and so wonderful and so unparalleled when it comes to childhood friendships. I think even if you don't talk to your childhood friends anymore, I think there's just something so wonderful and so magical and just so special about the friendships that you make when you're a kid that are different than friendships that you make as an adult. And I just think not only are both the book and the movie genuinely terrifying at parts, I just think the writing especially is so wonderful. Like, one of my favorite passages, this is also like the only book that I've ever annotated out of my own volition, not for school. Like, it just has gems in here. Like, he stood with his face turned up into that sunshine for a moment, grateful for its warmth and his freedom. September was a million years from today. The calendar might say something different, but what the calendar said was a lie. The summer would be much longer than the sum of its days, and it belonged to him. I just feel like one of the things that Stephen King is great at is, I know a lot of people hate his excessive description, but I think a lot of it is just really describing the mundane and things that we all feel like universal human experiences and puts them into words. And here's another passage really fast, just because I love the writing. So many quotes in here just really hit me with just how vivid and how visceral they are. Ben liked the smell of the books, a spicy smell, faintly fabulous. He would sometimes walk through the adult stacks, looking at the thousands of volumes and imagining a world of lives inside each one. The way he sometimes walked along his street in the burning, smoke-hazed twilight of a late October afternoon, the sun only a bitter orange line on the horizon. I just love it. I feel like this book needs no introduction, but it is about a group of children who discover that there is something seriously sinister going on in their town, and a evil entity that can take on the shape of your worst fears is snatching little kids and killing them and eating them. This is dual timeline because although they think as kids they defeat this evil, they make a pact that if it ever comes back, they'll come back to their hometown to defeat it once and for all. So that's it. I mean, this is a heavy hitter for a good reason. I absolutely love the book. The movies are incredible as well. They're genuinely scary. They're really well done. I think they're well done movies. I cried at the last one. It's just, I thought the casting of the child actors and then their adult counterparts was absolutely wonderful. I love this whole entire franchise. Question number 6 is, what is the ultimate comfort read for you? I have a couple of answers for this one, but I ended up choosing the book because, like it, this is another franchise that I like. And caveat, I don't exactly like the whole franchise, but the very first movie and the book are just such comfort things for me. This movie is one of my favorite movies, and I really do enjoy the book as well, and that's going to be Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. So this kind of feels like a cop-out because so much so the movie is more of like a comfort movie to me than the book. I'm saying comfort movie, people die in that movie. It's a comfort movie. The soundtrack, I love the soundtrack. I own it on CD. I listen to it all the time. It can bring me to tears. For like whatever reason, it's one of the movies that I have like the youngest memories of myself watching. It's one of my very first movies I remember. So that's probably why. The book is really good as well as The Lost World is really good too. The movies, Jurassic Park, the first one's good. The second two are tolerable. I hate Jurassic World. A large part of that is because I can't stand Chris Pratt, but also it's one of those where I almost wish at this point they wouldn't have tried to revive it just because I don't like it. The book is also, I have really strong memories with it too because it is one of the first books that I picked up in college. I didn't have a great first semester of college. I feel like a lot of people don't. Like, it's just not anything in specific, and I did overall have a good time. It was just such an adjustment for me. I actually ended up writing my honors thesis on this, but it was one of the first books that I picked up for fun after going through most of high school, not really reading anything for enjoyment. So that's really special to me as well. And I also just picked this one because while I do have other comfort reads, I actually don't talk about Jurassic Park a whole lot on my channel, and it's definitely one of my favorite franchises, at least the first movie and then the book. So I wanted to showcase that a little bit, but this is definitely a comfort series for me. I love dinosaurs. Prompt number 7, what is your favorite autumnal reading snack? And again, I don't eat when I read. I'm so boring. I really like making caramel apples. I'm vegan, so I pretty much have to make caramel when I want to make like caramel apples and all of that, because I can't just go out and buy whatever. And so actually that's kind of turned into a fun tradition of me and my partner will make our own homemade caramel sauce and do caramel apples. So that's like one of my favorite autumnal snacks that really we only make in the fall. I really enjoy the fall Oreos, the ones with the orange cream, you know, the ones that taste exactly like normal Oreos, but they taste a little different because the orange cream, it's like one of those gimmicky things as a kid. My mom would never buy them because like what's the point? It's just more added food coloring and dye to like the same thing. And so I just think I really coveted that as a kid. But those are really nostalgic as well. I always buy at least a box of those to enjoy. And I mean, it's a mental thing, but they taste different than the Oreos that they have year round. And then prompt number 8, what is your favorite autumnal candle to burn while reading? And hands down, that is going to be Leaves by Bath & Body Works. I get one of these candles, at least one, every single year. I also get it in like their wallflower plugins because this is like the ultimate scent. This is actually packaging from last year, but I absolutely love it. So that's why I'm going to be keeping this actual container. I really enjoy repurposing things like this, so I think the color scheme is perfectly autumnal. So the fragrance notes are crisp red apple, golden nectar, and warm clove spice. This smells like, this is kind of a hard scent to describe. It is very warm. This smells like the first day where you walk out and it smells like fall, like it smells a little crisp in the air and you know it's coming, you know fall is coming, you know Halloween's coming. That's what this smells like. It's very warm and cozy without having cinnamon in it. I really enjoy the clove. It's like more subtle and it just smells, when I light this up, it just smells like fall. So this is hands down my absolute favorite one that they have. Their pumpkin apple is also really good as well as marshmallow fireside. That one is almost a little bit more winter to me, but it's also a really good one for the fall. If you needed like a good candle recommendation, I'd say like my top 3 for fall are Leaves, pumpkin apple, marshmallow fireside. Prompt number 9, when you're not reading, what is your favorite autumnal activity? And they're really calling me out because I primarily read. Like that's my only big hobby that I have, but I do love horror movies. In the past, during college, I was a maniac and either really good at time management or really bad, depending on how you look at it. I would watch, so every single year in college, I watched a horror movie every single day in the month of October, which I can't do anymore. Truthfully, I don't, like looking back, I don't know how I did it. I'm really good at multitasking and I like having like noise on in the background, and my major and minor were both very writing intensive, so I didn't have a lot of tests throughout college. I would mostly just have like big papers that were due once every couple weeks. So I definitely used to watch a lot more horror movies. I put a big emphasis on watching one a day. I can't do that anymore as much as I would like to, but I do watch a good amount of horror movies all year round, but especially in October. October is when I won't really watch too many new ones anymore. I'll just rewatch my favorite ones. I'll normally try and get a rewatch of some of my favorites like The Lost Boys, The Conjuring's a really good one. I also really enjoy It chapters 1 and 2, and then I also really love The Haunted Mansion. I love haunted houses as well. I don't think I'm going to any this year because I just doesn't seem like the greatest idea, but I really love those, and normally I would go to at least 1 or 2 a spooky season, but that's pretty much it. Bunch of horror movies, horror fiction, and then some occasional excursions, which unfortunately I just don't think the excursions are gonna happen this year. And then prompt number 10 is what is on your autumn and fall reading list, and I will actually leave that linked down below because I did do a whole October TBR, as well as a couple of videos ago a haul with a bunch of just rest of the year TBR, but I will briefly go over some of the ones that I'm really looking forward to reading. So just briefly, some of the books that I'm looking forward to reading in October. We have Gyo by Junji Ito. This is about mutant fish, I believe, and here's a fun little illustration. I really love horror manga. I think it is a really fun subgenre of horror. I'm also looking forward to reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one I feel like is also probably going to be a very atmospheric book. I'll have to read it and figure out which season it would be atmospheric for, but it does really feel like it's going to be a very character-driven, atmospheric type of book. You can't really, well, you can. I'm not trying to gatekeep anything, but you can't really have an October TBR without throwing some zombies in there. For me, zombie fiction, zombie movies just in general, I either really love them or I hate them. I'm hoping that I love this one because it's very chunky, so it's gonna be a big time investment and I hope I don't hate it. But I'm hoping to read The Living Dead by George A. Romero and Daniel Kraus. This is a zombie epic. I believe it follows multiple different people in the wake of a zombie apocalypse. George A. Romero did Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, so I feel like this is gonna be a really good read and potentially have some very classic horror vibes. I also want to read Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is about a magical school setting, dark academia, but all of the kids, I believe, are like older teens or like in their early 20s. I love everything about this premise, so I'm hoping it lives up to my expectations like most younger millennials, early Gen Zers. I was born in 95, so I'm like right on the cusp of both of those, but you know, I feel like a lot of us have a very soft spot for magical school settings. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a really fun series to get invested in. And then I'd also like to pick up The Scapegracers. This is the first in a young adult series about sapphic witches and girl gangs, and just this gives off Chilling Adventures of Sabrina vibes kind of with how it sounds like it's gonna go, so I am really looking forward to that. But that is going to be it for this book tag. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more content, definitely leave a comment down below. I love interacting with y'all. I hope everyone is having a wonderful spooky season so far. Stay safe, stay well, and I will catch y'all in my next video. Bye!